we've shown a lot of things that are happening, in terms of the renovations and the plans that we have, and they're exciting, and I love envisioning them. But to make these things a reality, quite frankly, it takes a lot of support and a lot of partnerships. And one of the things that we've tried to do since, and for the last year and a half, is to really view this not as let's go out and get a bunch of money and try and see, come up with a bunch of stuff that we can do, but really, as Lindsay said, to talk about how this evolves from the relationships that we have both in the Church of the Savior, but also outside Church of the Savior, and in, with justice organizations in DC and beyond. But I wanted to just bring Jim back on to talk, if you're okay with it, Jim, just to talk about why supporting the Festival Center is important to you.
Yeah, Bill, thank you. And I met Lindsay and sat down with Bill a few months ago, and when I heard them talk about, I'd heard Bill, but I had met Lindsay to see her so quickly come up to speed, and enjoying her and seeing the partnership that they have and all of the people that are in this righteous struggle and fight. It was compelling to me to give to it myself. So I have pushed my chips in on the Festival Center with my money. And what's bigger than that is I push my chips in with my spirit and my energy. Money is wonderful, and we do need that for things like renovations and supporting that stuff. But if that comes without spirit, then it's less of a gift, in my opinion. But I just want to say I have skin in the game here because I believe in it. The reason I believe in it is, it's and without any discredit to anything else that's a forward-facing part of our community. And I'm on the steering committee of the Potter's House, which is near and dear to my heart. Many people that are on this call, that's a wonderful place, beautiful place. I believe the Festival Center has the capacity, and has been in the past, our most powerful outward-facing ministry. It's one that connects with its space and all of the myriad of ways that things are happening within it. And now that's even going to expand of what it can hold and contain. It is a container. It is a womb. It has been, and it needs to continue to be. And it's very obvious, if you have spent time at the Festival Center since it opened 30 years ago, that it needs physical work. So we got to do that. And the womb, we need new wineskin. We need new wineskin, not the old wineskin, to hold what is coming. So we have to physically be prepared. But this womb, this outward facing place, it's what connects with what's important in the world, and how we might continue to be a place of reconciliation and justice. And not just because we want to be that place. It's not for us. So often churches are built, and I come from them, I've served them, that churches are built by groups of people that want it to reflect themselves. And then they invite other people in. And sometimes that's a righteous inviting, but oftentimes it's not. Oftentimes they're stuck in their neighborhoods, in their homogeneity, so on and so forth. I'm not down on church buildings. I am down on what happens when people don't make that jump, that this place is not for us. We are not building a place for us. This is not a country club. This is not a place for social gathering. It can be, but usually it doesn't look quite like the Festival Center looks, has looked and will look. The Come and See program, I set foot in the festival center the first time in 1998 and brought kids from my church where I was serving in Western North Carolina in the city of Morganton, and spent a week in the Come and See program and went around a lot of the ministries and sat beside an old man that prayed this long prayer at noon prayer. And it was a good prayer, but I got up from that prayer and I turned to Elizabeth McMeekin and I said, our week is almost over and I'm dying to meet Gordon Cosby. And she said, well, you've been sitting beside him for half an hour. And so I got indoctrinated within the festival center at an early age for me as a young pastor. And thinking about all the ways that the church has met the needs of the world or has struggled to do so, that has been facing outward to see how we can best be nimble. Nimble is a word that Gordon used with me when he talked. I made the mistake of asking him, should I go back to the United Methodist system? I mean, that's like asking a fish, would it like to be back in the water or would it like to be in the boat? And so Gordon told me to do my own thing, which is exactly what I've done. So I love the nimble hearts of Church of the Savior, that if something doesn't work, then we let it go and we start something else. We don't get attached to outcome. We set high expectations, but we release the outcomes. And it's hard to do that in a place that's not nimble. It's hard to do that in a place that doesn't have space that can change and grow with our time. This past January, in one of the darkest months of the year, I took my counseling work, which had already been remote, and I went on a journey to visit some civil rights places. And I slept in the back of my Jeep and made my way down to cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma. And I had met John Lewis a few years before, and I'm so glad that I got to shake his hand and tell him what he meant to me and our country. And I wished him a very long life, and his cancer diagnosis had just been made public. And so I was hoping against hope. And John Lewis said back to me, well, I hope you have a long life too. I said, I don't think my long life has had as much impact as your long life. So I walked across the Edmund Pettus Bridge and I became familiar with a 1960 news documentary on the sit-in movement for civil rights in the South. And John Lewis was recorded. If you can believe this, he was 20 years old when he said the following: there was a moving feeling within me that I was sitting there at the counter demanding a God-given right. And my soul became satisfied that I was right in what I was doing. And at the same time, there was something deep down within me, moving me, that I could no longer be satisfied or go along with an evil system, that I had to be maladjusted to it. Yet in spite of all this, I had to keep loving the people who denied me service, who stared at me. I've used this in a couple sermons over the last 9 months, and I memorized those words. And the way of John Lewis and the way of so many revelators come from this inward place. Their outward movements, which have changed the course of history, came from that inward place. He is as beautiful, and I'm not just picking John Lewis because it just happens to be someone who moves me. There are many, many people whose names I don't know and whose names we don't know, very ordinary people who have changed the course of the world by virtue of their marriage between that inward and that outward journey. And so in order for John Lewis to change the world, to be the outward face in the midst of a deep systemic evil, he had to say and mean it, that I had to keep loving the people that denied me. So I believe that we are at a place in history, and I don't need to remind any of us on here what is at stake in our country. with our leadership and with the divisive nature of our public discourse, political discourse. There needs to be another way. And that way is an inward way and it's an outward way. And we all walk around with that inward way. And we need a place that we can do this outward way together. So I don't know of a better way to spend my money and my energy than to make sure we have something. I would like for there to be something that when I die, somebody says that guy believed in what this place is doing way back at the time when our country really needed it. So I've gone on too long. Thank you for listening. I appreciate your hanging in with that. It was an honor to be able to talk about it. Thank you.